My first question to you is, I would really like to understand when it comes to the US. There's so much happening in the US right now. India, tariffs, and there's an amazing article written by ET which says India is tariffed, right? But let's start with why is America actually imposing these tariffs? If you could unpack this for us, it would really help.
Why is America doing this,
Yeah.
which is completely contrary to common sense? America historically has been the policeman of the world. After the Second World War, which ended in 1945, it's 80 years. America has encouraged the world to become open, to be democratic,
Yep.
and be with sharing with each other. What has it resulted in? This philosophy of being open and being democratic has made America the richest country on earth. It is number one in GDP of $29 trillion of GDP out of $105 trillion of global GDP. Now, suddenly, over the last 2 months, America decided that I don't care for you, I exist for me, or we exist for ourselves. This, of course, defies logic, but that's what they have done. Mr. Trump believes, in fact, he believes this concept since his young days. I have seen his interviews in young days also. He believes that if tariffs are high, import duties are high, America will not import much, but will make what is being consumed by themselves. They will make inside America. This is what he believed from beginning.
Hmm.
As soon as he got his chair, he implemented that contrary to everyone's belief. The whole world was thinking he's bluffing, and therefore they never believed what they saw on 2nd of April. So what happens? It is a tectonic change we must understand. A country which was bringing method into madness, which treated himself or herself as the policeman of the world, suddenly decided that I don't care. Everyone is now dependent upon themselves. What is the greatest move, not only because of this tariff issue, where the goods which used to be manufactured, which was the cheapest source, perhaps may not happen, but more importantly, every country in the world has to now fend for themselves. For what? For defense, for security. Please understand Europe, which is about $18 trillion GDP, 27 countries, they did not spend much on defense. What did they spend on? They spent on social security, they spent on education, they spent on quality of life, and they left defense or security to US. US treated themselves as Europe's parent. So parent was looking after the child. Child was therefore indulging himself or herself with goodies. And suddenly the parent said, you know what? I am not going to look after you. Go to hell. Now, child has to look after himself or herself. This is what has happened. A tectonic change has happened, and everyone in the world, including each finance or non-finance person on earth, must take notice of this change.
Okay, so well explained. So I have this follow-up question to this. Why did Mr. Trump not do this in his term one? Why was tariffs not his focus point in term one? What changed and brought this tariff-focused, advance or stance through the new Trump administration?
Trump 1.0, I think, was his trial period. He wasn't too sure that whether people are backing him. Then he lost in the next election.
Yep.
And this, he when he came back, he actually went and told their citizen in his campaign for presidency that, you know what, I'm going to enhance tariff for imports into USA. Everyone clapped. Said, wow, what a fantastic thing. He said, I'm going to make America great again. I'm going to bring all the manufacturing into this country. When you say this with authority, Aam Janta, most people are not educated, maybe 10% are and 90% not. That's true for almost all the countries. Educated means educated in economics. They said
Yep.
it makes sense. Why not? We should make some for ourselves. We should not allow imports. They voted. Now, Trump came to power through this campaign line that make America great again through tariffs. Tariff, 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 which he said. And therefore, this time he thought that yes, people are going to back me, and this is a time when I could do what I wanted to do always, enhance
Hmm.
tariffs. So he did it now and perhaps waited in the first time to see what happens to the general mood of the people.
Okay. That's so well explained. Okay, so Robin, I want to understand this. Okay, so what happens when America imposes tariffs on other countries? Like, what is the good and the ugly side for America and, of course, the world? We'll talk about it later on, but you take it from here.
First, I'm still searching the good for America. What's
Okay.
good for America? Well, logic says if imports are subject to tariff, then Americans will going to make their own stuff. Manufacture is going to enhance. This perhaps is the good, which can be the only good. But the bad part is the import duty of America, average import duty of America, was at 3%. That means for every $100 of goods which the Americans used to consume, and if it was imported, America used to pay a price of $103. The average duty now from 3% will now become 25%. That means a stuff which was costing $100, they were paying $103. Now, overnight from next week, they have to pay $125. What will happen to the economy? The bad of it is immediate inflation,
Yep.
imports cut, consumption slowing down, leading to lesser manufacturing, lesser production of goods. Lesser production of goods leads to lesser employment, income of the people, leading to recession. It is a clear case of recession coming into the world very soon. The biggest downside is this step is recessionary. This step is anti consumption. This
Yep.
step is inflationary. That's the minus. I'm still thinking of the plus, but while I was talking about the minus, but there are hardly any.
Okay. So, Robin, do you think this is intentional? Like, could this be the real intention of imposing tariffs? While India is pushing consumption, America wants to curb on consumption. What is this? Because I'm sure Trump and his team with brilliant minds would have seen through this. It's so evident. So, what's your take on it?
I am yet to come across even one economist which
Okay.
says that what Mr. Trump is doing looks good. Every economist, every damn economist I've been exposed to, I'm sure you or anyone else who will be listening to this podcast will be exposed to, that not a single economist is in favor of this move. Mr. Trump, who has his personality in such a way that his own teammates are not able to tell him, please don't do it. Tariff is the platform in which Mr. Trump won the election. And now
Yep.
they do not have an option but to go ahead with it. And telling Trump no means he or she will get sacked. So, yes, common sense says that should not have been done and should not be done because it is simple economics. Unfortunately, it's not being listened to by the powers that be who runs USA today.
Oh my God, this is so weird, right? If something like this was happening. Okay, okay. I actually thought there would probably be some thesis to this, but no. Okay, so it's straight and direct. So Robin, you've been the CFO, CEO of large organizations for like over 35 plus years, right? So have you seen such tariffs imposed in the past, either by the US or some other power nation? And what are the evidence that these tariffs work or don't work? What's your point of view?
What a great question. Has this happened in the past? Yes, it has been. It has happened in the past. In the 1930s, actually 1930, which is about 100 years ago, 95 years to be precise, there was a tariff act called Tariff Act 1930. It's also called Smoot-Hawley Tariff 1930 Act. Smoot-Hawley. There were two congressmen who moved a resolution in the Congress saying that America is suffering, agriculture is suffering, import duties on manufactured goods and agriculture goods must be enhanced. At that point of time, the import duties in America was around 5 to 6%. They enhanced the import duty to 20% on some 20,000 items. It was not as wide as it has been done today. They had exempted some 1,000 items also. There were a large number of exemptions. In fact, this happened at a time when the president's name was Mr. Herbert Hoover. You may not have heard because he was not a popular president like, let's say, Abraham Lincoln or Eisenhower. So there are popular presidents in the USA which we have all heard of, but Herbert Hoover nobody has heard of, or at least most of us have not. So he was a president at that point of time. He agreed to this move by two congressmen, and they named it the Smoot-Hawley Tariff of 1930. Enhanced the tariff from 6% to 20%. Implication of that, 1931 and 1932, the Great Depression set in. I hope you know that the Great Depression was from 1930 to 1934. There is some theory that this enhanced Smoot and Hawley tariff did not impact on the recession, but that is incorrect. The fact that they announced this tariff, the Americans' growth then receded, became minus. In 1934, you must have heard of President Roosevelt. In 1934, actually, then Herbert Hoover went away and he lost. President Roosevelt took over. President Roosevelt transferred the right to impose tariff from the Congress to the president's office. And since then, the president's office has the right to impose tariff. What Roosevelt did, he entered into reciprocal agreement. He removed the tariff and then started reducing the tariff. Since 1934, the tariffs have been consistently reducing for US, went down to 3% in December 2024, only to be rising to 25% weighted average in 2025. So historical evidence proves that enhanced tariff results in recession. That's the bad news. In spite of historical evidence being available, we are not listening to it, unfortunately.
Wow, so this is really worrisome. If you're going to compare this to 95 years ago, history might repeat again. So it's pretty uncool of what exactly is happening right now.
There is every possibility as it stands today, for a recession in the world. It is not going to be in the US or in India. It will be a global recession as it happened between 1929 and 1934.
So Robin, I remember when I spoke to you last in 2021, and you said, a lot of these startups who are raising millions and millions and millions at, billions of valuation are going to come crashing down. And it was actually true. I remember sending you the screenshot, and I also put out the video. So I hope this doesn't turn out to be true, but I'm sure
I
you've done
really hope
your.
this doesn't come out. I really hope it doesn't come out to be true. And I really hope this is completely wrong what I just said.
Okay. Okay. So, Robin, now what does this exactly mean to India? We will talk about the CFOs and CEOs, but what does it mean to India? So, you have been you've been with ArcelorMittal, with Caprians, and with a couple of other large organizations, right, who do a lot of exports. So, from your experience, what does it mean to India? What happens next, and you know, what should we look at?
There are two important decision making points which we need to consider today. India has been now stamped with a 26% tariff in US.
Okay.
That means imports into US will have a 26% import duty from India. The good news for India is China has been slapped with a 34% import duty, according to the 2nd April notification. But there was
Yep.
already a 20% base duty announced 2 weeks ago. Therefore, the China's import duty is 54%. So while India's import duty into US is 26%, China will
Yep.
be 54%. Now, I not don't want to get into details, but for instance, Vietnam will have an import duty of 46%. Well, Thailand will be 36, and let's say Japan will be 24, EU will be 20, and so on and so forth. Now, so one area is one issue, important decision making is that it seems India will be positively placed
Yep.
in terms of import duty. Import duty from India is lesser than others.
Yep.
Having said that, I'm quite sure the importers from USA are going to ask for price reduction. Now, there are 5 sectors in India which would get some implication, have some implication or the other. Let's say the textiles and apparel. That seems to be the most talked about today. People are all very excited, saying, you
Yep.
know what? Bangladesh has an import duty of 37%,
Yep.
but India has 26%. Sri Lanka is 44%, India is 26%. Our biggest competition is Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Now, those importers from USA, let's say Walmart, will now start importing from India. Quite
Yep.
possible. We don't know.
Yep.
That's a good point to say that textiles might get an encouragement.
Yep.
In terms of agri products, that also will be subjected to 26%. India exports $5 billion of agri products, shrimps, fish, then vegetable extracts, then non-basmati rice. These are exports from India. This will be subject to 26%. Now, these are normally exported from India. Fish, shrimp is not going from Bangladesh. They are not going from Sri Lanka. So a
Yep.
26% import duty is going to hit them very badly.
Yep.
What will happen is Americans perhaps will start importing from South America, where some of the countries are duty of 20%. So that's number two. So textile looks upbeat as of now. Agri looks down as of now. The third, IT. If I when I was looking at newspaper, they said, "Oh, damn good news! There is no duty on software." But the
Hmm.
problem of IT is we will only be able to export IT or software only when America is doing well. If America goes into recession, who will buy our products? So
Yep.
it's a downside for us, even if there is no import duty. Auto sector, India is a large auto sector, component export, that will be subjected to 25% import duty, which was announced about 2 weeks ago. So we don't export to USA cars, but we export auto components. The component itself, that import content, will be subject to 25% duty. Well, where else will they import from? It would take time for them to change sources. Auto is highly regulated, very safety conscious. So in the immediate future, I don't think it will get affected. But yes, there is a 25% import component there. And the last is pharma sector. There is a lot of rejoicing going on. No import duty, no tariff imposed on pharma. However, there are some press news which says Mr.
Yep.
Trump apparently has said, don't worry, don't worry. I am going to come with a much, much bigger story for pharma. I do hope it was his momentary statements and perhaps he would not do it on medicines. But yes, to cut the long story, textile positive on India, agri negative in India, IT negative in India, auto negative in India, pharma as of now positive in India.
Amazing. Robin, so well explained. Okay. So, Robin, I have this follow up question. Can Trump go back and, undo the tariffs? Is it possible once he sees the implications and once people, don't approve of it?
Let's look at this short term and long term. In the short term, if I told you that in textile India has a plus, our biggest three competitors are Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. Vietnam has been imposed with 44% import duty. Now, yesterday, as I'm talking to you, the president of Vietnam has said to America that, Mr. America, please export anything, we will charge zero duty. So, Vietnam, it is possible next week will remove all import duties from US. Do you not think that Trump is now going to remove that 44% import duty? Possible. So what will happen is there will be now countries, there are 180 of them on which this tariff has been imposed. They are now going to sit on their drawing board and see what all we can do, as India would. So
Yep.
countries after country might start giving concessions,
Yep.
and America, Mr. Trump has said very clearly that you reduce, I reduce.
Yep.
It's a bargaining point for them. So, in the short term, we are likely to see corrections made by Mr. Trump and his party very soon. This is the short term, based on what the other countries are going to do. The second part is, which is, I think, what will happen. The country US is an intelligent group of people. They are the
Yep.
richest in the world, most successful. I don't think they are going to take this nonsense. So if this continues, recession sets in, the country doesn't do well, and inflation goes up. If they might live with this for 6 months, but then after not. Stock markets have collapsed
Yep.
in 2 days, on 3rd and 4th of April, which was a Thursday and Friday, which is just day after 2nd April, $5 trillion of market capitalization, market cap has come down of USA. Market
Wow.
cap of USA as a country is $32 trillion. Of that, $5 trillion is gone in 2 days.
Yep.
We don't know what's going to happen in the near future, but I'm quite sure the country is not going to live with this. So, in the short term, surely there will be corrections. In the medium term, I feel there may be a big recoiling of this import duty structure. Yes.
Okay, okay. So well explained. So, Robin, I have a couple of other questions, especially for the CFOs and CEOs. But before going there, I want to ask you this, okay? So, President Trump has always said, hey, Prime Minister Modi is his friend. But, Washington was not treated right by New Delhi. They have slapped, that's the reason why they've slapped such high tariffs. And Piyush Goyal was also in the US, in Washington, trying to, find a middle ground. So, do you think, like Vietnam, India could also retract, and then instead of 25-27%, we'll go back to lower tariffs? So what's your take on it? And then that Trump wins, right? He wins in his deals.
There is a big possibility of this happening. India is a democracy, and therefore import duties cannot be slashed just because Mr. Piyush Goyal decides going to US and Mr. Modi decides. So it has to go to the parliament. So it has to go through laws, legal routes, and therefore it would take time. The prime minister and the ruling party very clearly said that we are going to do all the negotiations now. During the monsoon session of the parliament, we are going to adjust the import tariff. So monsoon session is about 3 months away, and I
Yep.
presume this will definitely happen for sure.
Yep.
Unless that actual import duty cut happens, I don't think Mr. Trump is going to do anything more. However, just to let you know, that in the last budget, which is about 2 months away, 2 months ago, India has already slashed import duties in a big way. For instance, on whiskies, bourbon whiskey, which was supposed to 150% import duty, has been cut by 50% and is 100%. On two-wheelers, motorcycles, which was supposed to have been getting 60% import duty, is down to 30%. So there has been lot of correction which has happened. Not lot, quite a few American imports, but you can say that's not good enough because America has calculated that
Yep.
uh, the weighted average import duty of America from India is about
Yep.
54%. I still don't understand the logic, but assuming it is so, 54%, it is rather high. So obviously we have to reduce it. So to answer your question, I do foresee next 2 to 3 months, India is going to reduce import tariffs in some way for sure, and there would be some implication. But can India make huge correction? I don't think so, because if we have to make a huge correction, the agri sector has to be corrected, and that 60% of our population depends on agri economy. To
Yep.
make that correction looks to me difficult. So it's a very difficult game to play, but yes, India has to play the game.
Okay. Okay. That's so well explained. And you know, if India does that to the US, which of course, as you said, there would be some reduction. Other countries which are also dependent on India for its exports imports, they would also demand similar kind of tariff cuts, right? So there's going to be a ripple effect. Do you see the European countries also doing the same?
There is definitely going to have two things, two issues. One, India will have a bilateral agreement with US. India will also have bilateral agreement with other countries. They're already discussing with UK, with European Union, with Australia. There are a lot
Yep.
of bilateral discussions are going on. The Commerce Ministry is now very busy
Yep.
having this bilateral. So will there be a um, absolute cut? I don't think so. But there will be now bilateral reductions which will happen, at least till the next budget. This is what I feel, because the country has to see what is the implication of these selective cuts rather
Yep.
than across the board cuts.
Yep, yep. Okay. So, Eva, I was just looking at a report, and also Fortune has written an amazing article on this, right? So, EY warns that Donald Trump's tariffs could fundamentally reshape India's export strategy. So, in very simple terms, Robin, what does it mean? Why would it fundamentally change India's export strategy?
India has been exporting those goods which was, let's say, profitable for US to import from India. Let's say textile.
Yeah.
Mm. Now India was exporting textile, but we were being beaten by Bangladesh. We were being beaten by Sri Lanka and Vietnams of the world. Now, just to take this textile as a case in point, we will have to now start exporting textile at a lower cost. The fundamental change which will happen into India, which we have to do, the ease of doing business has to come significantly real easy. We have to be at par with the world ease of doing business. To start a factory, to start manufacturing, to, to to meet all the rules and regulations have to be made so simple that you encourage manufacturing in such a big way that this huge tariff which US is importing will become
Yeah.
more profitable, more useful to the world, and will be able to export to the other countries of the world at much cheaper price. Again, a significant change in thought process has to go. The bureaucracy has to come down, permissions have to become much faster, and real ease of doing business at par with perhaps Singapore and Hong Kongs of the world. That is what will happen. Well, needs to happen to the country. Perhaps it will.
Okay, so this is one positive. Cool. Yes. Okay, so Robin, the big question: how would if you were a CFO right now of a company that's exporting auto and steel and agriculture, what would really worry you, and how do you deal with this? There is no hedging towards tariff risk, right? So what do you do? How do you, and what are your colleagues, who are CFOs? You have a great network. What is really bogging them down? How are they dealing with this?
The first news, first, what I believe my colleagues are doing is wait and watch. because it is just on 2nd of April. We are speaking on 5th of April. So 2 days on, markets have collapsed. The carpet under our feet seems to have been moving away.
Yep.
And to take any decision in a hurry will be foolish. So now first wait and watch. Let's see what in the next 2 weeks things happen. Second, the Americans will continue to buy. They need their foodstuff, they need their textile, they need their fish, they need their eggs, they need everything. So they will now they are going to ask for new prices. I am going to now my team or our colleagues are going to offer new prices. They will say, no, 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 give me 20% discount. What we will have to do, perhaps we will make do with 10% discount because they know we know from India
Yep.
that if they have to buy from China, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the price is going to be much higher. So
Yep.
when you ask for 20% discount, maybe a 10% discount will work. That's the second. So the pricing has to be now thought through. Third,
Yep.
we will have to take, we have to cut down on our profits. Some of the companies which are making, let's say, 15% profits, maybe now have to do with 5% profit or 4% profit. Of course, you can say companies which are not making profit, what happens to them? That's a big
Yep.
one. Companies which are already struggling with 4 5% margin, how will they give away a 10% cost reduction, which is definitely not possible? Therefore, therefore, people like you and me, finance guys, have to now go down, drill down, and see how we can save cost. So cost saving, cost optimization, negotiation, little bit of reduction of profit, see how much we can our balance sheets can afford. Next 6 months, I think most of us have to take a hit to see how the world is moving. But the good news is somehow the good news is India has been lucky to be the lowest and 26% amongst our major competitors of China, Bangladesh. I still believe there is a calculation error, but I will not look at that. I have looked into that calculation. To me, 26% looks to be too low. It should be around 37, 36%. But I would not speak too much on that. Having said that, because the data is what they have declared how this calculation they have done. They have taken the trade deficit divided by import by America into whatever the percentage they have halved it, and that is the percentage they have taken. I put my numbers itself. It seems to be around 34, 35%, but they have taken 20. So they are very lucky to be that way. And therefore, India is in a way in a good wicket, but wait and watch policy. Look at your balance sheet. There is no right or wrong answer, and
Yep.
hopefully we shall survive these tough times.
Okay, okay. So well explained, Robin. So, Robin, I just have this one question for you, right? You said according to your to the formula that they've used, right? It should be 34, 35%. So, is there any reason which you feel why they've stuck to 25, 26% with regard to India and not with respect to other countries? I mean, of course, India is the fifth largest economy and stuff like that, but what according to you?
Across the board for these 180 countries, what they have done, they have taken the imports, American imports. Let us say the American imports of India was $80 billion, and American exports to India, let us say it was $44 billion. The exports minus imports minus exports, so there is a trade deficit of $37 billion. They have divided that by total imports, which is $81 billion. If you actually see my whatever I have seen, little, if you actually see this difference, imports minus export, the trade deficit, which comes to $37 billion, the total import is $81 billion. 37 by 81, it doesn't come to 26%, it comes to 37%. So we should have been slapped with a 37% import duty. But what
Yep,
perhaps has happened in their calculation, they
yep,
have taken the import not $80 billion, some other number. They have taken the trade deficit not 44 billion, but some other number. They came to a figure of 26. So whether it's a mistake or that's the right figure, because I don't have the exact figures. I am not Ministry of Economics, Ministry of
yep,
Commerce.
yep,
Americans, obviously, they have the data. So based on the
yep.
data they have calculated, and we are really lucky that we're at 26%. I would have definitely thought that we would be higher than at least Bangladesh and Vietnam and Sri Lanka, but it's not. But that's what has
Okay.
happened. They have done a calculation, they have figured out a number. I think they did not have much time to check. Even as you know, they have uh, placed a 10% import duty on countries which only has penguins. They have no human beings, and they have slashed duty on 10%. So some errors have taken place. Our duty, which was originally at 27%, they said no, no, it's not 27, but it's 26%. They seem to have done some errors. I hope they don't correct the errors later on to our disadvantage.
Okay, cool. So, Robin, my closing question to you is, anything else you would like to share with the CFOs and CEOs? And of course, the hot question which everybody is asking on Google today is, what is the stock market going to be? Should we invest or should we not invest? So, what do you say?
As it stands today on 5th of April 2025, the move by Mr. Trump is recessionary. So there is likely to be a big negative impact on the economy, not only in India, also of the world. So what will happen? America is going to go through a big issue. So people are going to divert their wealth to non-share investments. There is every likelihood that people will go to items like gold, cryptocurrency, which is highly speculative in nature, and I would suggest to stay away from that. And three is debt. Debt will at least give a surety of return than an equity. So I personally feel people are going to reallocate their savings, people who are making a savings on equity. Number two, because it's a recession, the stock market is going to go down significantly. So the SIPs, that is systemic investment plan, perhaps should continue. So you can invest little as the market is down. The best time to buy is when the market is down, and obviously the best time to sell when the market is up. We can never time the market. So I would still think that SIP should continue. But if the SIPs were in the large number, I would say that
Yep.
reduce the numbers and enhance the number of months, the number of the period through which the SIPs will be done. So, and number three, protect cash. If you have cash in hand, it is better that you keep it in your pocket rather than now investing and be tomboyish or being a hero of now investing in a market saying that, oh, I see great times tomorrow, it's a great price to buy. Wait and watch is what I would suggest you should do. And I think in the next 6 to 8 weeks, that things will become much more clearer. I don't believe American market can take such hits. They are taking $2 to $3 trillion hits every day. It has
Yep.
to stop. So therefore, Mr. Trump perhaps will do something, but what is that something? No one knows.
Okay, cool. Anything else you would like to add to for other CFOs and CEOs? Also, not only in India, even in the US.
Keep a tab of what's happening. Keep a tab as to what the the team around Mr. Trump saying. Keep a watch as to what his economists are saying. Mr. Trump will keep writing saying nothing is wrong, everything is fine, tomorrow will be great. But what is his team saying? If his
Yep.
team is saying little negative stuff, that means Mr. Trump is going to make corrections sooner than later. So keep a watch what's happening, keep a tab of international news. Indian newspapers, India's news does not carry what is happening, exactly what's happening there. Your WhatsApps and your mobiles are not good enough to my mind. Maybe you should look at Economist magazine, Financial Times, the New York Times of the world, perhaps Reuters also. The
Yep.
bottom line is keep a tab what's happening, adjust your strategy with the latest, keep cool, don't panic, maintain cash with you, and perhaps investment in shares must perhaps should be reduced or gone little slow.
Okay, cool. Robin, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this was you explained this so well, as always.